Hi everybody. Sometimes we have a long-running batch task or a long-running process that takes a while, and during its execution it freezes the user input. For example, let's say I'm here in the order screen and I'm going to run my long process, and as the process runs, my UI is locked. I cannot do anything, I cannot click on anything, and it's quite annoying while I'm process to run. As you can see, it took it 7 seconds, and in these 7 seconds I was completely frozen. Let's not consider the good user experience, and now that we're using .NET, we have the ability to use more threads and we have the ability to use multitasking to improve our performance, but it's important to understand the simple mechanics of it and the gotchas that might exist over there. So first of all, on our website there is a section called Multithreading in Context that I recommend that you read. There's a great article here about context, and there's an article here about using a parallel and multiple threads to have multiple screens open at the same time. I recommend that you read it. But if all you need is just to run a simple batch in a different thread, then let me show you how you do it easily. So this is the code that calls my long running process. And to get this call to happen in a different thread, all I need to do is env common run on new thread. And then I give it a lambda with what I want to run, in this case the actual call that we had. And the second parameter is sync UI. Now for improved performance of a batch that doesn't have UI, I recommend that you send false here, as I will right now. Let's run it and see what happens. So I ran the long process, but the UI continues to operate as I wanted it. And when it will be done, it will give me a message box that it was done. It took it 6 seconds to complete that long operation. But my UI was always responsive, and I can actually run it 3 times and have my UI continue to work without any trouble whatsoever. So that's how I got this to run. Very simple change, just 2 lines of code. Let's review the change. Great. So adding run on new thread, and that's it. That's how I get running in multiple threads. Now let's make sure that we cover all the basics. The first thing that is important to know when you're running with threads is that each thread has its own context. Okay, each thread has its own context, which means on call stack, on connection to the database, on transactions. It's important to know because it's something that you need to be aware of when you do that. Another aspect that is important is that each thread will call the onStart event of the application class. Okay, this is the design of working with threads in the migrated solution, and that's something that you need to be aware of and take care of. Let me show you where that comes in and how you might experience that. So let's go to the application class, and let's add over here an onStart with a message box saying application onStart. Let's run our application. We got the message box that we wanted. And when we run a long process, we get that message box again, because this happens in the second process that we are running. Now that's a common gotcha, because a lot of times you have a lot of complicated code in the onStart of your application, and that code will run for each separate thread, just like on the web or anywhere else. So a good and easy workaround is static bool already done false, and say here if not already done, then do this and set already done to true. This will cause the code to only run once in the first thread. Okay, application on start, but now when we ran the long process, the on start didn't run again because we have conditioned it and we got the process to complete. So let's just review again. To limit the code to run only once, we just created a static bool. A static value is alive across all threads, so this is how I could use it in the 2 different threads, and I've set it to true here so it wouldn't run again. Great. So we've covered how the onStart of the application class can run again and how we can handle that, and that's also cool. Now let's add to that a bit more complexity. let's so edit on start. Let's say that we want to monitor the progress of the second process. Well, threading is easy, so I can say here var thread equals, and I keep the thread, and that thread has properties like is alive. So I can do a simple while loop saying, well, while thread.isAlive, then mbox waiting to complete. And when it's done, then done. Let's see how this works for us. So I'm going to run the long process, and it's waiting to complete, waiting to complete, waiting to complete, still waiting to complete, still waiting to complete, and then took me 7 seconds to complete the long process, and now it's done. So you can use that as a way to monitor the thread and to see its progress, see when it's done. If you need to notify something, if you need to let anyone know, then you do it like this. And just like we do this, we can actually open 5 threads and wait for all the 5 threads to be done, and only complete everything when all 5 threads are done. So this is a really good way to take a complex process, sometimes a serial process that will run for like each country and do calculate orders, and then separate it into 5 threads that all the countries will run in parallel, and use this technique to wait for all the countries to be completed. I hope you find this useful. Cheers!